motivation for commissioning the studio group to make a new work was really about inviting our community with the belief that their ideas, their insights, their experiences would help us shape our programme. The studio group are all artists, they're all makers. We've worked with them for 3 years, so we knew that they had a really strong aesthetic sense and they also understood what audiences wanted to see. Their love of making has resulted in this incredible, elaborate, rich piece that we could never have done without them.
We did a year or so of research into lots of different artists. We all came up with suggestions, went down to a shortlist, and then we asked the people on the shortlist to send proposals in.
Nadine came with some drawings and they were absolutely beautiful, and so we were hooked. We then discussed it with him and said things that we wanted to explore.
So I come from a textiles background. I studied in a degree called textiles. My mum's a tailor. Early on, a lot of the skills that I learned came from her. So there's always been this kind of culture of sharing ideas. So that's what drew me to this project as well. And it was always going to be a two-way conversation. It always had to be this dialogue. These people weren't artist assistants, they were collaborators, they were part of the project. And that's really kind of opened up different avenues for me, I think, in terms of not holding all the reins of control. And because the studio group have also brought their skills into play as well, and that has to be really important.
He's putting a lot of trust in the fact that we know what we're doing and that we have some skills, and he's giving us some quite complex things to do. Ultimately, obviously, his name's going to be on the work, but it is more of a collaboration because he's very trusting in asking our advice.
It brings together a lot of people that normally wouldn't work together. Our practices are so different. We've all got to know each other pretty well. We all know our strengths and weaknesses.
We really do feel that we're working and we are a team, and that this project probably would not have progressed as well without our input as well.
I'm quite interested in religious icons, grand narratives, kind of politics, identity. The idea of the Three Graces felt like a continuation of work that I was already doing. As you enter the gallery space, it's this really amazing, quite dynamic double height sort of space, and then also from the mezzanine above. But then also you've got this incredible view as well of the North Sea. From Western mythology, you have the Three Graces, who were the daughters of Zeus. The idea of the Three Graces were later hijacked by the Christian faith and became hope, faith and charity. And these are kind of beneathic qualities that we're supposed to kind of aspire to or imbue within our daily lives. But then also, I'm drawing upon an Eastern myth as well, and in pre-Islamic Arabia, which was a pagan culture, there were 3 daughters of Allah. So what you have are 3 kind of monumental deities which are quite elegant, quite beautiful, very kind of overwhelming in terms of decoration, but there's also a sense of them being somehow vicious or kind of breaking down or fallible. The one that sits on the floor I would describe as quite earthly. It's an earthly grace, so it's based around the serpent. The serpent has a very specific connotation. It was seen as temptation. The laser cut panels there's something very organic about them. They're made to look almost like granite. So it's kind of like a composite figure is how I would describe that one.
I knew that Nadine wanted something that he could coil round the serpent. We used organza and we used eyelash wool. At the end, we'd made about 49 metres of rope.
And then we have one which is based around the goddess Artemis, which runs, or Diana of Ephesus as well, which runs up the wall. It gives you the full height of the space. Diana of Ephesus was a deity that was worshipped in Greek times, but also pre-Greek as well. And she had many different kind of breast-like forms, which was seen as quite significant religiously.
At the top of Artemis, there are 3 semicircles with spikes. We decided then to spray these pieces and put them on. That's the thing that I will look at and think, yeah, I did that.
Probably the most kind of craziest of the 3, I think, is one called Word, which is based around Islamic calligraphy. It kind of draws this beautiful line in space and it's kind of suspended high up in the air, so it's very celestial. And the original idea with that one was, because it was so high up in the air and it's framed by the window and the sea beyond, that it would be somehow kind of light or like breath or like air. But in actual fact, it's probably the most colourful out of all 3 of them, and it's really quite vibrant and beautiful, and it looks like a deconstructed stained glass window.
Because it's such a huge piece, it wouldn't fit in any of the spaces in the Turner. And then we came up with the idea of putting heavy-duty duct tape on, and then to make that secure, we then had to shove it through a sewing machine. There were about 6 or even maybe 8 people steering the whole thing through the jaws of the sewing machine. It was a big fight, basically, but I think it hasn't fallen to pieces yet, so I think we've probably succeeded in that.
And then around that you've got a vine, which is very kind of organic, it's very rich. It looks like something out of Jungle Book, which I'm quite pleased about. And then hanging off that will be 99 crow skulls on these crystal beads. So I'm very happy to kind of draw on all these different elements and to kind of create a sort of syncretic language is how I would describe it, where all these different elements fit together. I think what's really important is a sense of joyfulness and play with the work as well. There is a sense of theatre and drama which needs to happen in that space to kind of hold its own. But also for me, a good artwork should take you somewhere else. I think it should really fire your imagination. And that's essentially what my practice is about, I think, sort of trying to ignite people's imaginations.
Certain elements of it I've taken away with me and thought, yeah, I could really work with that in the materials that I've been using.
It's the opportunity to work on a project that I would never conceive of. It's so far from my own personal way of thinking, of doing things, and definitely I'll be taking some of the techniques a bit further in my own work.
Even the individual things, the work that has gone into each exquisite thing, the different processes, the amount of man hours that's gone into each thing, it's been quite a ride.
It's such an achievement to be able to do something like this and actually inspire each other. It's a nice group and I don't want it to end.
The biggest success that could come from this would be that if another organisation looked at what we've done and thought of a group of people in their community and maybe gave them the opportunity to do what we've done, that would be brilliant to know that it is just the beginning.